So here in this video, I'm just going through a few quotes from some French patriots. A guy named Robert Brasillach, I'd never heard of him before, and a few other Frenchmen who knew what they were fighting for during World War II and what was at stake. So, Robert Brasillach was a prominent French novelist, critic, and editor of the staunchly pro-fascist and collaborationist newspaper Jesus Partout. His writings during the 1939 to 45 period represent a defense of the European biological and cultural order against what he perceived as the corrosive influence of the Jews, right? The adversarial seed. So here are some verbatim quotes on the Jewish problem. You can see the French original on top, the source on the very bottom, and in between is the translation. It says, "We must separate from the Jews as a block and not keep the little ones. The Jewish question is not a question of religion, it is a question of race. And we do not want the French race to be contaminated." And that is true. Jewry has nothing to do with religion. It is a race, and the religion is a cover. So it's what people need to understand. And he did on Christianity and the New Order. So he wanted a heroic Christianity, right? Not a Judeo Christianity, which is a neutered Christianity. So he wrote in 1941, Christianity is not a doctrine of weakness. We want a Christianity that is in agreement with the fatherland, with the blood, with the earth, and not a wandering and rootless Christianity that pacts with the foreigner and with the Jew, right? Because he knew Christianity was for the whites, it was not for the foreigners, and it had nothing to do with Jews. So, except that they were mentioned as our enemies in the Bible. So, on the war and the crusade against Bolshevism. In 1941, he said, "This war is a crusade. It is the crusade of Europe against Bolshevism. That is to say, against Jewish barbarism. If Germany succumbs, our entire civilization will disappear under the flood of red mud." And do we not see that over the last 80 years, and especially today in 2026? So, on the Great Erasure of National Identity in 1944, he wrote, "History is written by the victors," right? And what have all of us been taught our entire lives, right? So he wrote, "History has been written by the victors," or history is written by the victors, "but the truth is inscribed in our blood. They will try to make us believe that we were traitors when we only wanted the salvation of our race against the invasion of the foreign spirit," right? Of the Jewish spirit. And he was executed in 1945 for being a French patriot. So here's a few other French patriots. Louis Ferdinand Celine. I did a separate video on one of his books, I think Trifles for a Massacre. I did that a long time ago. So if that's still out there, you can find it. Or go find the book. It's a good book. So he wrote, "The Jew is a Negro. The Jewish race is a bastard race. Race mixing, that is the great secret, the great goal, the great humanity of tomorrow," right? Because he knew what the Jews' goal was, right? Which is one race, means race mixing. It's what Kudnov Kalergi wanted, who was a racial bastard. He was a mongrel, and he wanted the white Europeans to mongrelize like himself. And we see that in overdrive in 2026. Why do you think the Jews are allowing unlimited immigration into only white nations? Because they're trying to accomplish Kalergi's plan. He was one of them. So Celine wrote, "France is a colony of Jewish power. The salvation of our blood requires a total separation, a break with the Talmudic spirit that poisons our schools and our hospitals," right? Everything in America is poisoned with Jewish spirit today. Our schools are a joke, and our hospitals kill you, right? Unless you break a bone or you're given birth, but even then, they're going to poison your child, right? So, um, Lucien Rebete. Now, I never heard of this guy. So, he was a colleague of Brasillach at that newspaper. And he wrote in 1942, "We have been betrayed by a Judified democracy that preferred the death of France to the loss of its usurious profits. There is no possible compromise with the biological enemy," right? There is none. This is a war of life and death. So there is no compromise. It's been tried for probably thousands or millions of times over the millennia. And look where we are today. There's not been any compromise. It's been an unending assault against white Christian Israelite Europeans. So, under that, he wrote in 1943, "Modern Christianity is a Hebrew infection. We must rediscover the strength of our ancestors, a faith that does not apologize for existing and that rejects the stranger." So up on the right, Pierre Drew La Rochelle. He was a novelist, and recognized the Jewish threat. And he wrote in 1941, "The modern world is a machine for manufacturing narcissists without race and without roots. Only National Socialism can restore the integrity of the European man." And he wrote in 1944, "I gave myself to Europe because I did not want France to die in the hands of the usurers of the spirit." And then Charles Maurras, he wrote in 1941, "The Jew is an can't pronounce that right now, unassimilable foreigner." Sorry. "His presence within the nation is a factor of decomposition. The policy of separation is not hatred, it is a measure of public health," right? So there were smart Frenchmen. I mean, hundreds of thousands, if not a few million French people collaborated with the Germans and understood what the fight was about. Because after the war, from what I read, the Jews went around and arrested or murdered, I believe it was over a 500,000 Frenchmen. It was probably more than that. From what I read, it was over 500,000. Men and women, just like they did in France, just like they did in Denmark and the Netherlands, obviously in Germany, Slovak, Hungary. I mean, everywhere they genocided white Europeans who knew the truth. So, and we'll see here, yeah. So, uh, Drew La Rochelle committed suicide. Brasillach was executed. Celine was forced into exile, and Maurras was imprisoned. Right. So anybody who spoke the truth was punished. So, yeah. Anyway, that's all I have there. So.